back, everyone, to the HockeyNorth podcast. I'm your host today, Tyler Kroom, joined with my good friend Brendan Pawliw. Brendan, how are you doing today?
I'm well. Thank you very much for asking.
Right on. And I know you got a big smile on your face, and rightfully so. You had a pretty good holiday there. You're in Arizona. Tell us a bit about the trip.
It was a bit of a trek getting down there with some of the weather and the flight cancellations, but I finally got out of the cold deep freeze and the snow and some much warmer and milder weather. Went to an NFL game, a college football bowl game, college basketball. Kind of did the whole 9 yards, I guess you could say, and it was a pretty fun time to be had with my family. So it was really good.
That's awesome. And I'm sure, it's a good way to kind of regroup and get away from all the craziness here within the hockey season, everything going on as well.
hmm Yeah, it's just a good time to recharge the batteries. This is technically my busy season with obviously my job and then this and all the other sports teams that I'm affiliated with. So nice to get away, not think about games there for a while, and just recharge the batteries for just over 2 weeks.
Absolutely. And with that said, you came back right into a good time with the Western Hockey League trade deadline coming up here on Tuesday. And I mean, seen some action. We've seen some big deals here this morning. What are your thoughts on that massive, possibly historic deal between Kamloops and Everett?
14 assets for Everett coming back after trading their best blue liner and arguably the best defenseman in the WHL, arguably, and Olin Zellweger. Obviously, was part of that gold medal winning Team Canada with his head coach Dennis Williams, and he and overager Ryan Hofer, who they just came back from Prince George, earning a split against the Cougars. Uh, Both him and Zellweger going the other way to the Blazers, of course. Them hosting the Memorial Cup, and you see teams like Seattle and Winnipeg also get rid of their draft picks hand over fist for elite players, and the arms race is on, as they say, and we've seen that deal. Zach Ostapchuk obviously going from Vancouver to Winnipeg, also a member of that gold medal winning Team Canada roster that at the World Juniors. So some big pieces on the move, and it should add for some even more intrigue over the next couple days with the trade deadline looming.
For sure. With that, let's go into our well, actually, before I head into our breakdown of our Northern athletes in the junior ranks, tell us a bit about our guests we have coming on the podcast.
Well, we have an all-female episode here this week with Prince George product Kiana Wilkinson playing in the Russian Women's Pro League with the Chinese-owned Kunlun Red Star, as well as Northern Capital forwards Abby Bryant and Jessa Brewer. As you know, early on in the year, Jessa got a college scholarship lined up south of the border with Niagara University, the same program as her teammate and fellow captain Rachel Lowen earlier this year. Abby Bryant, of course, still has another year left of eligibility, and I got to speak with both of them on the season as well as a myriad of other topics. Wilkinson, of course, a local product playing overseas, talking about the growth of the women's program over in Europe, as well as playing for the Kunlun Red Stars. So no shortage of intrigue with the trio of guests I was able to line up for this week.
Excellent. And before we get to that, how about a breakdown of all of our Northern athletes throughout the junior ranks?
Well, we'll kick things off in the Western Hockey League with the Kelowna Rockets forward and Smithers product. Carson Golder, of course, he was acquired from the Edmonton Oil Kings earlier on in the season by the Rockets. And over the past couple of games, Golder had a helper in a matchup against the Kamloops Blazers. Golder, of course, 27 points in 39 games since being acquired by the Rockets, pretty much a point per game pace. 12 points in 15 games for him. 14 of those have been goals. Taking a look across the Western League, Miguel Marquez of the Lethbridge Hurricanes, also Prince George product, 10 points in 31 games over the weekend. He had one assist. That was in a home game against the Moose Jaw Warriors, where the Lethbridge Hurricanes fell 5-3 against Moose Jaw. His teammate, Hayden Smith of Chetwynd. He is also having a few points as well. He's got 5 in 38 games, pointless over the weekend as well. So a bit more harder to come by for points for those two. But Lethbridge, fifth in the Eastern Conference standings. I think slightly exceeding expectations this year. So good on them for being a part of that. Terrell Goldsmith of the Prince Albert Raiders, who we'll see at the end of this month on their Western Road Swing, taking on the Prince George Cougars at the end of January. He went pointless in 4 games this week. The Fort St. James product of 5 points in 38 games on a younger Prince Albert team that's rebuilding following the trade of one Nolan Allen. So Prince Albert maybe looking ahead to next year, although they've had some wins recently to try and keep pace with one of the final playoff spots in the Eastern Conference. Caden Brown of the Prince George Cougars, 19 points in 34 games this year. Of course, a HockeyNorth athlete and a guest previously on this show. A goal and a helper in Saturday's 3-1 victory over the said Everett Silvertips at CN Center. His teammate Fisher O'Brien of the Prince George Cougars, pointless in that weekend set. His last goal came in a New Year's Eve thrashing over the Kamloops Blazers, a 10-5 win, if you remember. That was a bit of a wacky one at CN Center. Dawson Creek's Leighton Feist of the Regina Pats, 15 points and 40 games on the season for him. He was held pointless over the weekend in a pair of home games against Seattle and Calgary, but did garner an assist on January the 4th against the Brandon Wheat Kings. Tanner Molendijk of the Saskatoon Blade, McBride's product, 22 points in 34 games for him. He had a pretty solid weekend. He had a goal and a helper for the Blades against the Swift Current Broncos. Blades actually fell in that game 5-4 in a shootout. The next night for Tanner, he had 2 helpers in a 6-2 victory over the Red Deer Rebels. His teammate in Prince George product, Smith Redman of Prince George, just the 1 assist in 20 games this season for him. Of course, he's just 16, trying to climb up that solid Blades lineup, which is a point out of second place and also nearing the top of the Eastern Conference standings, just looking up slightly to the Winnipeg Ice. Nico Majadovic, Prince George Products, Seattle Thunderbirds, NHL rated prospect, 30 points in 35 games. 2 helpers in a 6-0 win over the Regina Pats over the weekend. He was pointless the next night in Moose Jaw, but still career numbers for Nico on a Seattle team that's loaded for bear. And let's not forget about Cameron Schmidt, the 15-year-old top prospect of Prince George of the Vancouver Giants, his first career Western Hockey League goal in a 3-2 victory over the Tri-City Americans. So congratulations, Cameron, for that. Taking a look at the Junior A ranks, we'll start off in the BCHL with the Merritt Centennials. Diego Johnson, 12 points, 29 games for the Fort St. James product and University of Wisconsin commit. He scored over the weekend for the Centennials in a game against the Vernon Vipers. Taking a look at the score sheet, Merritt fell in that game by a 6-3 margin. So Merritt still trying to climb their way up the standings in that interior conference, which is absolutely loaded with talent. And speaking of talent, no shortage of Northern products on the Prince George Spruce Kings. John Harrington, of course, leading the Spruce Kings in scoring with 30 points in 32 games. Other former Prince George Caribou Cougar prospect, grad rather, Lyndon Mackow, 15 points in 32 games. Scott Cousins, 6 points in 20 games since coming over from the Kelowna Rockets. And of course, Jordan Fairley having himself a year, being one of the staples on the Spruce Kings team in terms of his numbers, 16 and 7 on the season, 2.69 goals against average, followed by a 902 save percentage there. He had a shutout victory Saturday against Penticton, and arguably one of the Spruce Kings' best efforts of the season in a 3-0 win at home as they earn a split against the BCHL's top-ranked team. And Nathan Mackey, the captain of the Salmon Arm Silverbacks, 27 points in 32 games for him. The Michigan State product, just 1 helper over the weekend. That was a home effort against the Vernon Vipers on the 6th of January. That was a 3-0 win on Friday against the Vipers. So Salmon Arm right on the heels of Prince George for those third, fourth, and fifth spots in the interior conference of the BCHL. Switching gears to the Alberta Junior Hockey League, Hunter Brown of the Spruce Grove Saints, the Fort St. John product, 29 points in 33 games on the season. He had 2 assists in 3 games for Spruce Grove over a 3-game stretch this week. Brophy Dunn, fellow Prince George product, and his teammate, 11 points in 31 games this season. He had a 2-goal effort back on January the 4th against Lloydminster. Spruce Grove winning that game handily by a 7-3 score. So that's your AJHL wrap for that team. And of course, Decker Moinchin of Prince George of the Grand Prairie Storm, 1 assist in a 8-1 thrashing loss against the Spruce Grove Saints. So Decker on a rebuilding Grand Prairie team that taking its lumps right now, facing off against his old team, Spruce Grove, over the weekend. Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, Alex Chitwa of the Nipawin Hawks, 18 points in 33 games, including 1 goal on Saturday against the Melfort Mustangs. Jackson Hassman of the Weyburn Red Wings, 13 goals, 3 assists, 106 penalty minutes in 29 games. The 20-year-old out of Prince George enjoying a solid statistical weekend for himself. 1 goal in Estevan against the Bruins. He followed that up with another helper at home in the home and home against the arch rival Bruins. Dawson Smith of the Larange Ice Wolves, the White Horse Yukon product, 15-5-0-1-1 on the season, 2.35 goals against average, 935 save percentage. He lost his last start at home against the Flin Flon Bombers back on January the 3rd. Gave up 4 goals on 50 shots, still a decent 920 save percentage despite the 4 goals allowed in that game. And Owen Palfreyman of the Melfort Mustangs, 3 helpers in 9 games. His last point came on January the 7th in a game against Alex Chitwa and the Nipawin Hawks. Junior B ranks, Kootenay International Junior Hockey League, and I'd be remiss not to mention that lengthy suspensions handed out by the Nelson Leafs, as well as the resignation of head coach Adam DeBella following that line brawl against the Beaver Valley Nighthawks. Speaking of the Leafs, Jasper Tate of Prince George, 9-5-0 on the season for Nelson, 3.33 goals against average, and a 902 save percentage for him. His teammate and Fort St. James product, Dawson Davis, has 11 points in 28 games on the season. He had 2 helpers over the weekend in a game against the 100 Mile House Wranglers. Speaking of the Wranglers, they're near the bottom of the standings still, but no shortage of northern prospects on that team. Osoyo's Coyotes, Carter Yarish, the former Caribou Cougar and a graduate of that program, lighting up the KIJHL, 57 points in 29 games. Jack Henderson of Quesnel, 48 points in 28 games. Also from the Caribou Cougar program, Ethan Forrest, also suiting up for Osoyo's. He has 13 points in 29 outings. Zach Leslie, 10 points in 23 games. And Kenny Giroux of the Osoyoos Coyotes, the fifth northern product on that team, 9-4 on the season, 3.26 goals against average, and an 898 save percentage. For him, he has not played past the Christmas break yet, but I would imagine he will do so at some point. Kelowna Chiefs, Dane Levesque of Kitimat, 15 points in 30 games for him. Jackson Redmond, 7 points in 28 games for the Chiefs captain. And then on the Kamloops Storm, you have the Phillips Watts brothers, Colton Phillips Watts, 10 games played this season for the Kamloops Storm. He's 8-1-0 on the year with a sparkling 1.43 goals against average and a 947 save percentage on the year. His brother is a forward on that team. That is Jake Phillips Watts, where he has 9 points in 30 games for the Storm. Vancouver Island Junior Hockey League now. Prince George product Sean Meehan, 5 points in 29 games for the Campbell River Storm. Followed that up by Chase Pacheco of the Port Alberta Bombers. he continues to light it up for them. He had points in all 3 games he played over the past week, a goal and a helper on the road, and then followed that up with 2 more games against Nanaimo as well as another island rival there. So 5 points in 3 games for Chase overall in the year, 32 points in 31 games for the 18-year-old forward out of Kitimat. And there you have it. That's your Junior A and Junior B as well as Major Junior wrap up for all of our Northern hockey players currently rostered right now.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Brendan, for that roundup of updates for our Northern athletes. And we're going to head into our Caribou Hockey Weekly before heading into our first interview of the podcast with Kiana Wilkinson. We'll start off here with the Northern Capitals. They were there on the female showcase down in the Lower Mainland. They went 2-2 over the weekend. The U18s also in the Lower Mainland. No, not Lower Mainland. Sorry, they were out in the Okanagan playing the Thompson Blazers. They start off the new year with 2 back-to-back wins on the opening weekend here in January, and for the U18s, that is something that they're going to be very happy about as they're looking to rebound in the second half of the season. U17 Caribou Cougars hosted the Okanagan Rockets here in town. Got the weekend split. Went with a win Saturday night and a loss there here on Sunday. And the U15 AAA Caribou Cougars also on the road. They were in the Lower Mainland as they took on the Hawks, and they too will get a 2-0 record with 2 wins over the weekend to start off the month of January. And a really good start here for the Caribou programs as it's really the home stretch here heading into the playoffs, and all the different teams are going to want to be able to make their way into the playoffs and make an impression before they finish off their season. With that, Brendan, how about you lead us into our interview with Kiana Wilkinson?
Well, Kiana Wilkinson is playing for the Kunlun Red Star of the Russian Women's Pro League. She's been overseas for the past 3 seasons, playing 2 for the Kunlun Red Star, followed by a season sandwiched in between in your gardens in the Swedish Women's Hockey League. Back in 2012, 2013, she played for the female midget AAA program called the Prince George Cougars before they were called the Northern Cougars and the Northern Capitals. Then she moved on to the Pacific Steelers for 2 years before embarking on 5 solid seasons with the St. Mary's University Huskies in the U Sports Women's Hockey League. And just taking a look before we sign things off to the interview, she was the Athlete of the Year in St. Mary's, as well as a first team AUS All Star and a second team U Sports All Canadian. So a very heralded hockey player is Kiana Wilkinson, and this was my chat with her. Well, it's no secret that hockey is a global game, and our next guest on the Hockey North podcast certainly exemplifies that. It's none other than PG's own Kiana Wilkinson, who is playing in the Russian Women's Pro League for the Kunlun Red Star. Kiana, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Well, Kiana, first things first, I know that you're playing pro right now for the Kunlun Red Star in the Russian Women's Pro League, but with yourself being a Prince George product, let's kick things off just finding out, how you first got involved in playing the game of hockey at such a young age in Prince George.
Yeah, I actually used to be a figure skater growing up, and then I switched over to hockey in grade 7 or 8, and I think I just kind of broke my arm, so I finished figure skating and then went out to tryouts, and they were kind of short girls, so I made the team, and I haven't stopped ever since. So
Now, you're actually the second women's hockey player that I know of that have made that transition. I'm sure there's many others, but I know that Vanderhoof Celaboon did the exact same thing at a much younger age, going from figure skating to hockey. I guess, what led you to making that transition? Was it just the team aspect of the sport? Was it just, figure skating not being fun anymore? What led to that?
yeah, I mean, like I said, my brother played, so I was always at the rink, and I always loved the game, watching it. And yeah, I played soccer, and there is a huge difference playing a team sport. And I guess yeah, I was just kind of over the individuality of figure skating, and yeah, just kind of over it. And then once I laced up the skates, I fell in love with the game. So
Now, once you did started playing hockey after leaving figure skating, just maybe talk about some of your earliest hockey memories locally in Prince George, and maybe any players that you might have idolized growing up.
I mean, I it feels like forever ago. I guess like the memories that I have just kind of playing when I was younger are all the same. Like you're playing with your friends, you're playing the game you love, and it's just fun. Like you're having fun every day. The early mornings suck, but it's fun at the end of the day. And yeah, I guess I never really had any female hockey players that I idolize, which is kind of sad. Saying that now because I hope that young female players now look up to others. So um, yeah, I would just say honestly my brother, because I was always watching him. So yeah.
Mhm. Next question. So maybe talk about what it meant to play for the Northern Cougars during the 2012-2013 season, as well as the subsequent move to the Pacific Steelers, and how that opportunity kind of came about.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I don't really remember many specifics as it was about 10 years ago now. But yeah, playing in Prince George was great. The road trips were always very long, and you're always getting home late, but it was fun. And I actually played with a girl named Sabrina Canoop, and her family moved to Maple Ridge that year. So that's kind of how I got the opportunity. I kind of decided that hockey was going to be what I was going to do. I didn't really know about the college route at that point, so that was a way for me to get exposure to schools. And yeah, it was kind of a last minute decision, but it was amazing. I lived in North End for 1 year, and then Maple Ridge for another year, and then came home to graduate. But it's super cool. We traveled throughout all of North America playing tournaments against other prep schools, and yeah, it was an unreal experience.
Was it that opportunity there that was kind of a turning point for you, kind of thinking, I could go pretty far with this sport?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, at that point I kind of had to take things a little bit more seriously. So fell in love with the game a little bit more, and obviously had to start trying a bit more in school. So yeah.
And then following your time with the Steelers, you made the move after high school to go all the way across the country to Nova Scotia to play for St. Mary's. I would imagine at the very start, anyway, that was a bit of a culture shock.
Yeah, for sure. I actually got to go tour the campus with my mom in November of the previous year, and it was awesome. I've never been over there. I didn't know what the AUS was in the U Sport League, so definitely something new. Never been over there, so fell in love with Halifax. Fell in love with the small campus. It's a 2 block radius, the whole campus, so it was nice. And didn't want to go to a huge school and not know anyone. So that was the best part, just kind of getting to know your teachers and your classmates. So yeah.
Did it kind of have that smaller community feel to it? Kind of like Prince George, Prince PG's a fair sized city, but it's not overwhelming in terms of getting around or population. Was that kind of important to you? And it was a bit of a relief when the school had that feel to it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was definitely another thing that led me there. So yeah.
Now you played 5 years at St. Mary's. Just maybe talk about some of the teams that you played on, and that including that 2018 year when the Huskies went all the way to the U Sports Championships.
Yeah, my first 3 seasons there, we actually won the AUS. So we won, yeah, 3 in a row, and then so every year you win, you go to the U Sport Championship, and I think yeah, it was our third year that we no, our first year we got bronze, I believe. I can't even remember, but every single year, those 3 years, we had an unreal team. I think it was our third year that we were supposed to do the best, and we ended up doing the worst out of all 3 years. Um, but yeah, it was so much fun. All the girls are amazing. I had so much fun there. Halifax is I haven't made it back there yet, but I'm dying to go back there. It's just a great town, great campus, and yeah, all the people are amazing there.
What are maybe some of your best memories of playing hockey out there?
Probably winning the AUS championship and then going around town with the trophy. It's a huge party town, so everyone was super pumped up when we won every year, and then yeah, the third year in a row was huge.
Then your last year with the Huskies was statistically your best year, and then you get in the playoffs. I think you play one series, and then COVID kind of shut everything down. Just maybe talk about how the pandemic for a while was maybe tough on younger athletes like yourself that are trying to move up in terms of your aspirations for the sport, and everything was just kind of in a standstill for the better part of a year.
Yeah, I think I never really looked at going pro. In my final year, I was kind of debating it, and then when COVID hit, I ended up going home in March, I believe, driving all the way home, which was a trek for sure. And then I ended up doing my exams distantly, so at home here. And I was hanging up the skates, I was done, and then I got the call from Bryant, so the coach for in the Kunlun Red Star in Russia. And I had a friend on the team, so I kind of knew a bit about it. But yeah, it was kind of COVID kind of just kind of put a end to everything for me. I studied firefighting, so I was really moving on. And then yeah, ended up putting them back on, and here I am, third year in a row.
Did you kind of see that call as a bit of a second chance?
Yeah, I was debating at going to Sweden actually, but the opportunity just didn't really make sense to me at that time. So I mean, not gonna lie, when I got the call and saw the contract and the money, it was kind of hard to say no. So yeah.
And just maybe talk about making the move overseas. You played 2 seasons now, I do believe, with Kunlun. You had obviously that season in Sweden sandwiched in. Just maybe talk about the Russian league itself and the caliber of players that are in it.
Yeah, I think my first year that I was there, our roster was pretty deep, so we kind of took it to every team we played. So it was kind of hard to judge the league with that team that we had. But this year we have a bit of a different team, and there's definitely a lot of skill in the league. I think Sweden is a great league as well. There's a lot of skill there, and I think in Russia it's just kind of the players are a bit bigger, and it's a bit of a different game. You don't have as much time with the puck, but they're both really good leagues. It's kind of hard to compare them because it's a bit of a different game, but yeah, it's really good hockey.
What's maybe the longest road trip in the Russian women's league?
We actually charter everywhere. So I think one of our flights is like 4 hours, but I don't know. There's some, if you look on the map, it's pretty far, but I don't know. We're kind of lucky. We don't really feel the travel as we used to. So
What's it like kind of getting around Russia? I know it's by plane, but just kind of experiencing that country and playing in a lot of the rinks, whether you're at home or away. What's kind of the vibe like playing and living there, and what's maybe uh, the culture or maybe the view on women's hockey there?
yeah, I mean, I think we're treated like pros. We play out of the same rink as our men's team, and we're treated the exact same, which is amazing, and not many teams do that. We, like I said, we charter everywhere, so we're really privileged that way. I mean, it kind of should be that way if that's what the men's teams are doing. So we're super lucky. I think yeah, we're located in Moscow and I love Moscow. It's amazing. The city is like, yeah, the food there is amazing. There's so much to do. I think you don't really know until you get there. It's hard to describe it. But yeah, it's definitely different when you're on the outskirts of a city compared to being in the city. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's so much fun and it's amazing. Like we get to travel the world and play hockey and see all these cool things and eat different food and meet different people. So it's definitely a privilege to do that.
Now you touched on the year in Sweden, sandwiched in between your stint with Kunlun. What team did you play on in Sweden, and how was that experience?
Yeah, I played for Yeargarden last year. So that was we were based out of Stockholm. It was so much fun. I love Sweden. I love Stockholm. I would go back there in an instant. Um, the league there is great. Same thing, like we were treated like professionals for the most part. Yeah, like it was a great opportunity. There's so much to do. We got an apartment paid for, food, like exactly how it should be. You're getting paid and everything's there for you. So luckily we were located like almost downtown Stockholm. So there was a lot to do. Lots of the girls are younger, so they're going to school. So had a lot of spare time to walk around and eat good food and do a little bit of shopping. But yeah, Sweden was amazing. I loved it there.
And you've played overseas now for a couple years now in both Russia and Sweden. Uh, we've obviously seen the evolution of the international game when it comes to the men's side of things. You're actually living the experience and playing in it now for 3 years now in both Russia and Sweden. What are your firsthand takeaways of how the women's game is evolving internationally in both those countries?
I think the Swedish league has kind of always been a place for imports to go. Excuse me. Yeah, I think North Americans they've been going there for quite a while now. So I think that league's kind of been established for a while. Um, excuse me. I don't think that many players go to the Russian league. I think it was just kind of for the Chinese team. Yeah, I think there's I think there's a lot of leagues in the world that players can go to. But there's a there's a team in Austria, a league there that's not super established, but the Swedish league is for sure at the top for in my opinion.
Now, one of the players that you play with on Kunlun, Caitlin Tugas, I actually watched her play at the SO Cup in Regina. I'm originally from Regina, so I was there when the Regina Rebels hosted it. She played for the Thunder Bay Queens, and her sister Courtney were both members of the Thunder Bay Queens when they beat Notre Dame in that tournament. And now you're both teammates. Just maybe talk about uh, playing with somebody like that who's pretty highly skilled.
Yeah, Toogie played with me 2 years ago in Russia as well. And then she went back to Sweden last year too and played for Mudo there. Um, and yeah, obviously going to Russia when you don't really know anyone is kind of tough. So when we kind of found out that we were all interested, it was a good move to go together, and we have a lot of downtime. So it's nice when you have some friends on the team to hang out with. So yeah, she's a great player, so much skill. Um, and yeah, just a great person off the ice as well.
Do you study any international players or players that play on like the women's national teams of like the States or Canada or any of the other teams that go to the Olympics on a regular basis? Is there any one or two players that you study and try and model your game after?
I mean, I definitely watch a lot of hockey. We when we're in Russia, we watch all the PHF games that are starting up now that we can. And then obviously the Swedish league still. I think I had the opportunity 2 years ago to play with Jessica Wong and Megan Bozak on D. So they're obviously like great players to look up to. But yeah, I'm always watching everyone. There's so much to learn. So many people to look up to. So
Would you come back home and play in a pro league in Canada if the opportunity did present itself?
yeah, I mean, I keep saying this is my final year. It's hard to say no, and when I think about it, if I had a contract for next year, it would be kind of hard to pass it up. I mean, you can't go back after 10 years and say, oh, I wish I kept playing. But yeah, obviously the league in North America, the PHF is up and coming, and I have a few friends playing in that league, and they're not working, so that's great news for female hockey and for the younger generations coming up. That's what we want. So yeah, it's definitely an option, and of course I'd like to be home instead of being away, but it's it's fun traveling the world. But yeah, I would for sure.
How much longer would you like to keep playing pro?
I don't know. Yeah, like I said, it's hard to say no when you're playing the game you love and you're getting paid and traveling the world. But yeah, there's you can never go back. So that's what I keep telling myself. Do it now while you can. So we'll see.
What would your advice be to younger girls in Prince George and or wherever you're playing, or even anywhere in Canada for that matter, if they want to take up hockey and have aspirations of going far with it, whether it's university, playing internationally like you are, what would you say to somebody who's 4 or 5 years old that's first getting into it?
Yeah, I mean, I think now the female hockey game is changed a lot, and there's a lot more opportunity for female players. I think even the game here in Prince George in the North is growing for females, which is amazing. I think there's more tools for girls to like practice and train here, which there wasn't back then. I think yeah, just stick with it and don't give up and take every opportunity you can. Um, yeah, it's amazing, and you're gonna regret it if you don't. So
What did you think of Mary Philippe Poulin, who's the winner of the Northern Star Award, formerly of the Lou Marsh Award? You must be pretty happy to see that.
yeah, I think just obviously being in Russia, the time zone's different, and I think every time we go on our phone and refresh the TSN Sportsnet updates, she's always up there doing something amazing. So yeah, she's definitely a huge icon for women's hockey, and everybody knows who she is for a reason.
Mhm. Well, Kiana, it was an absolute thrill to sit down and chat with you about your accomplishments and your journey through women's hockey, Prince George, and of course, well abroad in Canada and now in Russia. So, thank you very much for joining us, and maybe in the not too distant future, we can do this again.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you, Kiana.
All right, and that was our interview with Kiana Wilkinson. And what are your thoughts there on that interview, Brendan?
Well, just fascinating how you can have players from your own hometown kind of take that, I don't want to say path less travel, but just a path where, you play 1 year in your hometown and then you play two more in that JWHL league. We don't see maybe as many players from our area kind of make that jump to that league. And then, being one of many over the past several years, suiting up at the post-secondary level like she has, and not just playing, but playing well. In her last year, she had 23 assists in 28 games. Just taking a look, at her profile, she was very, very heralded with the Huskies. She was made the Youth Sports Women's Hockey Championship with the Huskies in one of the years that she played, just in 2017, 2018 for the Huskies. So just one of those athletes that maybe flies under the radar because she had to, chart her path elsewhere at times at a young age, but definitely someone that's enjoying the game overseas, and just talked about the experience, and just happy to see a local product find that path overseas, playing the game that she grew up playing.
Absolutely. And with that, it's a good time to move into our interview with Jessa Brewer and Abby Bryant. And what are your thoughts heading into this interview?
The Northern Capitals maybe not quite where they'd like to be this year, although they turned over a lot of talent from a team that was one game away from winning it all last year. Two of the players that have stepped up in the absence of graduated players like the Brooklyn Hutchings and the Keegan Goulets of the world, have, as well as Haley Armstrong, as well as many others, have been Abby Bryant and Jessa Brewer. Abby Bryant, of course, leading the Caps in scoring this season. Jessa Brewer securing a college scholarship south of the border to Niagara, the same school as her captain and Capitals blue liner Rachel Lowen. And just nice to talk about their on ice success, and well as the importance of bringing that added leadership to a lot of the younger players that haven't played at this level at all, or even on a consistent basis over the last couple of years. And just an intriguing chat with those two players, as well as their expectations, and who they maybe looked up to while they were growing up through the minor hockey system. All right, I'm back on the Hockey North podcast here with a pair of Northern Capitals and Jessa Brewer and Abby Bryant. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
First and foremost, both of you are returning players from last year's team. I guess just maybe talk about, before we head into your time with the Capitals, how did both of you first get started with the game, and when did you start playing hockey in Prince George?
I first started skating when I was 4 years old, and my grandpa taught me how to skate. And then when I was 5 years old, I started playing hockey, and that's when I fell in love with it here.
Yeah, I actually played ringette for 7 years before I started playing hockey, and I refused to play hockey. But my mom forced me and put me in it without asking me. And now, yeah.
And how have you enjoyed that transition from ringette to hockey?
Oh, I like hockey a lot better.
Next question I have for you, of course, this before joining the Caps. What are some of your most memorable minor hockey moments?
One of my most memorable hockey moments was the Haley Wickenheiser tournament. We got to meet Haley Wickenheiser and Natalie Spooner, and then the team went on to win 2 back-to-back championships, so that was really cool.
Yeah, mine is in Bantam. We had our home tournament, and we played Cameron Ward's team. And it was the finals and in overtime, and I scored the winning goal. And I still love bugging her about it. It's one of my favorites.
Which players did you idolize growing up, and are there certain players that you maybe both of you try to emulate when you're on the ice?
I definitely, when I was growing up, I loved Haley Wickenheiser. I always did projects on her. She was just like one of my biggest idols. And I always look up to her still to this day. And then watching her old games is just awesome.
Yeah, I always played older. Like I was AP, so older teams. So I definitely looked up to the older girls I played with, and I wanted to be like just like them. I obviously looked up to Natalie Spooner a lot. I love the way she plays. Yeah.
while growing up and playing your minor hockey or minor sports growing up, who were maybe some of your biggest supporters and trying to push you as far as you could with the game?
I think my biggest supporters have always been my family. They're always there for me, supporting anything that I do. And then also my coaches, they've always pushed me to be the best I can be and helping me with everything.
Yeah, definitely my family has always been there. My grandpa coached me, well, helps me. He used to coach, and I think my coaches and my teammate helped push me.
Mm-hmm. Now, both of you are returning players from last year's team, which was one win away from winning a league championship. Now that you're both considered veterans, what do both of you do to try and mentor some of the younger players on this year's team?
I think we both like to lead by example, and we always like to keep a positive attitude when we're on the bench, we're in games, we're in practices, and then also just being there for the girls. Like we've all been rookies before, and we know what it's like, so we just like to be there to help them out.
Yeah, there's a big age gap for some of us, so it's nice to lead them and like show them what the expectations are to be a championship team and how to get there.
Mm-hmm. Because you had quite a few really good role models to look up to. Last year, you had Brooklyn Hutchings, Ella Boone, you had Haley Armstrong, you had Keegan Goulet. I mean, the list goes on and on. You had a really good core to look up to, and I would imagine that really inspired both of you to try and take that next step for this season.
Yeah, definitely. They're amazing.
Now, Jessa, you committed to play for Niagara University next year, the same school as your captain and teammate Rachel Lowen. How did that opportunity come about? Was it always your goal to try and play university hockey?
So Rachel committed there and she was watching our games, and me and Anna, the coach, started texting, and it just kind of went from there. And I committed. And it hasn't always been my goal. Definitely my first goal was making the team, but after my first year as Northern Capital, I saw lots of my friends go off and play university. I thought it was super cool and I wanted to be just like them. So I started to pursue it. And yeah.
What would you say, Jessa, was maybe the biggest thing that you tried to improve upon in your game to try and get to that next level?
Definitely my speed and game sense. My game sense has always been like one of my bigger things that I'm good at. And so I just like to, yeah, work on my speed, and because I need to. Yeah.
Now, I know you technically have another year after this, Abby, but are you talking with any other schools right now or looking at your options once your time with the Caps wraps up here?
Right now I'm not talking to anyone, but I'm definitely like working on my profile with RJ, and then hopefully getting to talk to some schools when we go to Winnipeg and tournaments, and then just keeping my grades up for when that opportunity comes.
You talk about some of the tournaments. You were in Notre Dame last year. I believe you're going to Winnipeg after Christmas. How helpful are those tournaments, not only to showcase your talents, but to kind of have different sets of eyes on you that, maybe wouldn't travel out to Prince George or in the province to see you play otherwise?
It's really helpful. It gets us a lot of exposure to the schools like more in Ontario and not really in BC. And then lots of universities like in the States go there too. So it's just amazing to be able to go down there.
Mm-hmm. What does it mean to both of you to see friends and former teammates that are playing at the post-secondary level?
It's amazing to see the former teammates and friends that I had last year playing there. They're definitely really big role models to me, and I look up to them so much because that's one of my goals, to be up there with them. So it's awesome to see their journey.
Yeah, they're some of my closest friends, so I love watching them play at that level. It's super fun, and I think it's super cool that they get to do that.
Mm-hmm. How excited are both of you to be playing in the Winter Classic yet again in Fort St. James in the new year?
I'm really excited. It's like an amazing experience to be up there. Hopefully we actually get to play on the outdoor rink. We didn't get to last year, but it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think it's going to be super fun. It's a great opportunity, and it's like the culture and environment is so awesome.
Yeah, even though you didn't play in the outdoor game last time around, just maybe talk about what it was like, you know, going to the home community of one of your players in Ella Boone, going to Vanderhoof for playing a game, and then going to Fort St. James to play a game at the Fort Forum.
It was a great opportunity. Like, I think for Ella, that was amazing to play in front of her hometown crowd. And I think for us to play in front of people from the north and not just like Vancouver was awesome.
Yeah, I love supporting Ella. You'll love to see all her friends there, all her family. It was super fun. Good to meet everybody.
What are your goals for the rest of the season for both of you?
I think my goals for the rest of the season are definitely just to keep working on my skills, improving lots, and then just keeping on leading by example and really just doing my best.
Yeah, I want to become like the best player and teammate I can be and become a better leader and improve myself.
Now, I'm not sure if both of you have seen this or not, but what does it mean to both of you to see a women's hockey icon like Marie-Philippe Poulin be named Canada's top athlete like she was not too long ago?
For the female to win this award, it's amazing. It sets a great example for younger players and just it's really growing the female game for us. And I think she's just been one of my role models forever. And she's just amazing.
Yeah, it's nice having a strong like female be recognized like that. And I think it's awesome that she's representing our sport like that. And yeah.
Would it be fair to say that she's someone both of you kind of look up to?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Last question I have, I guess for both of you, how far do you want to go with the game, and what's kind of like your ideal goal or like final destination to play in this sport you're playing now?
I think mine would definitely be post-secondary, going to university, getting my schooling, and then also being able to play a high level of hockey and getting that exposure there too.
Yeah, I think just finishing school and then playing at Niagara, finishing there, and maybe coaching after.
Mhm. What does it say about the program that so many players that you've either played with or that have played a few years before you that are playing post-secondary now? And they're not just playing on rosters, but they're excelling too.
I think it's amazing. It really shows like how good of a program we have up here in the north. I don't think we had that much recognition before. So now having all those players go up from us is amazing.
Yeah, we definitely had a great group go through us, and I think it was definitely an awesome program. The coaching's awesome, and yeah, we have lots of support here.
Well, Abby and Jessa, thank you very much for taking the time to join us on the podcast, and best of luck the rest of this season, and maybe we can do it again sometime in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and that was our interview with Abby Bryant and Jessa Brewer. And what are your final thoughts on that interview there, Brendan?
No, they're just two local products that have found their niche, so to speak. A couple of players that have really taken that leadership jump as well as a statistical jump as well. You talk about it with Abby Bryant. They had her and Jessa Brewer as well as the likes of Cameron Ward enjoying a successful showcase down south, as you mentioned earlier on in the show. Bryant, of course, assisting on that game-winning goal of Cameron Ward's on the Saturday game, and then on the Sunday game, scoring again. So the offensive production is coming for players like Abby Bryant, and I would imagine she'll get even more attention from schools heading into her third and final season next season. But for this year anyway, taking that quantum leap that's necessary from a first and a second year player, and it's nice to see that she's seizing those opportunities, as well as a Jessa Brewer who's a year older, a year stronger, getting that attention as well and securing a scholarship. So, two local products making a mark with their hometown female AAA programs, and it's nice to find a way to get them on the program and showcase them and give them their rightful due.
Most certainly. And I know that was one of the questions I think a lot of us around the program had with so many departures, and they're all of them core pieces, leaving a lot of holes and a lot of opportunities. And being able to see, players like Jessa and Abby really seize the opportunity and use that to their advantage in their own development is really cool to see. And I'm sure their coaching staff is also just as happy to see players eager to fill those holes and take that responsibility on the ice.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that sentiment.
Awesome. Well, that is our first podcast to start off the new year. Thank you for everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you here again next week.
I need to know.